W.D. Gann's Great Discovery Revealed, Part 4. Lumber, US. You were herded because you believe this.
I dropped the stone.
Stop being a sheeple and use your brain. Stop believing what they want you to believe. The thing that has been is that which shall be, and that which is done is that which shall be done, and there is no new thing under the sun. Now this is lumber, and this is a monthly chart, which means that each vertical line you can see represents the high and low for a particular month. So 12 lines would represent a year, so we're looking at huge amounts of time, and we're going back to the 1970s. And it's very useful to have this kind of history so that you can find patterns that happened in the past which may be able to help you into the future. Now, I don't do this very much now because it's just very time consuming, but every now and then I'll have a look at something in a lot of detail and I'll find things which I then point out to clients that could be interesting. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to look at a signal that I gave in September of last year. So let's go to the website. So if you're a client, you can use, so the website is gann.co.uk, and if you're a client, you go to the client login, and what I've got here is the focus page, which is just a very brief summary so that people don't have to watch the training videos giving all the reasons that I'm interested. They can just look at these. So in here you can see that there's one which I did on the 21st of the 9th 2018 for a possible buy on lumber. So what I'm going to do is we're going to play that. This is lumber. Let's go with the training video of the 21st of September 2018, and as discussed in there, I'm watching for a possible buy here. However, there might be a short-term reaction here. If you want to pick up my charts, it'll be CO526 by GS. So if you listen to what I said very carefully, what I said was, now if you watched some of my early videos, I showed you that the Gann's most important level he talked about was a fall of 50% from a high, and it's the very first video I did, which I showed you the Wall Street crash, I think, and the FTSE in the UK. But I didn't say I thought that was where the market was going to be a major buy. I said it might stop for a short period of time, then break through, and the actual level that I'd be interested in would be 55%. Now 55% is not a Gann number, he never used 55%, so why was I interested in 55%? Now at the start of this video I said that which has been is that which will be, and there's no new thing under the sun from the Bible, and it's very true. You just got to find out what they're doing. So I was going to play you the actual video I did. Now if you go to training videos, this is where all the videos are that I do for clients each day. On the left hand side I have all the rules that I follow. Sorry. So on the left hand side here I have all the rules, stop losses, angles, percentages, etc. And on the right hand side I have all the signals I've given since the internet was quick enough to stream videos, which was around about 2002, and most people had internet connections quick enough to be able to watch. So if we go down to the bottom, so you can see that we've got the last one I did, which was yesterday, which is the euro against US dollar. I've got the Bitcoin, US dollar, crude oil, cocoa, US dollar, etc. But if we go to September of 2018, we're going to find on the 21st I did a video which was the 1177, which was lumber US, and that basically explains why, basically what I'm going to show you in a second. Now like I said, I was going to play the video, but there's some stuff in there that I don't really want to give out to the general public, so I'll actually just basically summarize what I actually said in that video. Okay, so I was kind of watching lumber and it was going up like a rocket. Okay, now September is actually when the market had already topped out. It was about there probably. That's July, so maybe there. And I was actually going to give that as a possible shorting level for lumber to clients, but I decided not to because it was massively against the trend and I didn't have enough reasons to go and say okay, it's worth a crack. However, I was right. So why was I interested? Well, it's actually just incredibly simple. Now you'll find that I did a video probably one of the recent ones where I talk about soybean US, where I predicted the future of soybeans based on what happened in the past. It just keeps falling exactly the same percentage. I can't remember how many times now, but it was probably 4 times. It had always fallen this percentage, and it was always the turning point in the market. And I said it before it ever happened, and it just happened to be exactly where the market bottomed out. So if you go and watch one of the videos I did recently, maybe 2 or 3 back. Now you can see that back in 1980 there was actually a major low. Now then there was a massive rise in the market, and then there was this sideways movement, but imagine you can't see this sideways movement yet. So it kind of if we draw on this, so you can see that we kind of went up, then we came down kind of sidewaysy, coming back about halfway if not more, and then we started to go up, and then it accelerated and we went shooting up very, very quickly. And looking at the chart, it just looked a bit similar to me. Can you see? It's a bit hard to see now. I put the arrow over the top, so let's get rid of them. Can you see we've got like a top there and a top there and a top there? It looked to me a bit like a top here, a top here and a top here, same kind of formation, which I don't look at formations, but you know, I could see that, so that was interesting. And it just seemed to me to be similar. We've kind of had this rise up here, like the rise up here, then we had a come down, okay, then we had the come down, and then we had the acceleration up to the top. And when I was thinking about putting the signal on for this, it was going up like a rocket, so it looked like that. Okay, so I asked myself what percentage it had risen, and from the low it had risen 340%. I'm sorry, turn that off, and you can see that it rose 340%, which gave me the exact top. Now when I was watching this, I could see that it was about to rise 340%, which you can now see with hindsight is where the market topped out. Now what I then did was I spent a lot of time using the past to predict the future, and I couldn't find a reason why it was going to work at 340% at the time, so I decided not to tell clients about it. But what I did do was I told them about what I'm about to show you now. So because that had actually the history had repeated itself, you can see that there was a very, very fast fall when it reached 340%. Now it's going to be easier to see that if we go back to, or we go and look at a weekly chart instead of a monthly chart. So that's it rising 340%, and then you can see the big fall. Each line represents a week now. And so basically, as it started to fall, and again this is back in 1993, and I don't even know if I was looking at lumber at the time, probably might have been, but I can't remember. The first thing I would have done, especially then, with the knowledge that I had at the time, I would have done what Gann would do, which would be take away 50%, and that would be a place where I'd be looking for a change in trend. And in fact, it does stop for a week, and then it comes down, and then it goes sideways, and then it falls through. Okay, so it did work at 50%, but it didn't last. Now, if you remember from the video that I did before, I went and said that I thought it might stop at 50, but it probably wouldn't last and then break through. And then the level that I was watching was minus 55%. And the reason I picked 55% was not because it has anything to do with Gann. Okay, I might do things differently to Gann now, but basically, because it fell, with hindsight, it fell 55%. And that's basically why I said it could be interesting. So if we now bring that up to date and look at the daily chart as of today, the chart looked like this. Now when I did the video was on the 21st of September, so that was going to be when the market was, okay, where the circle is. So when I did the actual signal of the focus, I could see this big fall, and I'd be using these bottoms here to predict the future, but I won't go through all that. So let's go to the high. So because in the past I had seen that it had risen 340% in the past, and this top was made at 340%, the first thing I did was, just as I would normally do, is I would take away 50%. And so when I did the video, which was here, I said that it might work at 50, yeah, because it did work for about a week in the past, back in 1994, 5, 6, whenever it was, and just like then it went up for a couple of days. Now if you just know about Gann's 50% rule, you just go and say that's a buy and go and buy it, and you would probably lose money or break even, or depending on how you use your stop losses. Okay, but I didn't want to get involved in it because I didn't think it was going to last. Okay, because the number that I was going to watch was going to be 55%. Now if you would have said to me at the time when it was going to get there, I'd probably say it was going to take a couple of days, but you can see that it didn't. It went up, came down, we had this big rise up, yeah, so we're talking over half a year it took to actually get to the level. But when it got to the level, what did it do? It was the bottom of the market, and it went up very quickly, just like what happened in the past. Also obviously from this high here, I knew that it had fallen to Gann's major percentage, which is 50%. Yeah, so that had worked in the past, yeah, and that's basically why I thought it might turn, because as I said before, that which has been is that which will be, and there's no new thing under the sun. But it's very time consuming. Okay, so like I said, I don't do it that often, and I do things that I think are far more powerful. Let's do some angles. So go to here in the software, you have a thing called auto angles. So if I right click, it tells me that the best angle is this one here. So gamma means something to me, that's the master time factor. That's beta is a master time factor, delta is a different master time factor, that gamma is the same master time factor as that one there. And you can see it says 99.9%. That's not a percentage, that's telling you how close it is to the first reaction. And it says 48. Now 48 is what I call based on the odd number of 3. Can you see in the pointed brackets it says 3? Because if you keep dividing 48 by 2, eventually 48 by 2 eventually gets to 3. When you get to 3, you can't divide it by 2 without getting a decimal point. So you'll get 48, then half of that is 24, then you get 12, then you get 6. Okay, so let's put that on the chart. So hindsight, you've got the first reaction. Now what Gann would have said about this angle is that when it stays below this angle, it's fundamentally in a weak position. okay, until it breaks above. Now that doesn't mean you buy, it just means that you've now changing your outlook to it, and then you start looking for reasons to buy more than short. Okay, now where would you be looking for resistance based on angles in the future? Again, you need to know what the master time factor is, or you just get a load of rubbish. That's why all these software programs out there that do angles, or reports that do angles, such as the Gann fan, etc., is just nonsense. Okay, Gann never talks about a Gann fan. Now, what's half of 48? Is 24. So let's see what happens at 24. Basically, it's where the top was made. Then hit it again, then hit it again. We've now broken above the angle, so we're now fundamentally in a strong position, so we'd now be looking for more reasons to buy than to short, but obviously that was back here because of what I said in the video. Half of that is 12, and so another level that might be worth watching for the future. And then we will do our percentages to try and find out where the angles and the percentages coincide at the same place. So it's a pretty simple example, but basically it's showing you that basically the future is just a repetition of the past. The hard bit is actually seeing it before it actually happens, and I just showed you that it did. This is why cycles don't work, because the market isn't set in stone. Things are attracted to levels, not they will happen on a certain date. If you think about it, how incredibly boring would life be if you just knew when the market's going to turn? Now loads of people will tell you about cycles, and I used to do it all back in the 80s, and I could find cycles every now and then. So for example, I predicted one of the reasons I predicted the 2007 high was because it had a habit of actually crashing in September of any decade with 7 in it. So there was a crash in 1987 in September, and then there was a crash in 1997 in September. So I just said maybe there'll be one in 2007, yeah, and basically in September, and that's basically where the market topped out. So I hope you enjoyed it, and if you want further information, I'll put some details here.